Ladies and gentlemen, the commencement ceremony of the University of California, San Diego is called to order. I am Bob Dines, Chancellor of UCSD. Mr. President, graduating students, distinguished guests, families, and friends, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the commencement ceremonies for the class of '97. I'd like to thank the UCSD Commencement Orchestra. They've been working very hard already today. This day is a culmination of years of hard work and study by the remarkable individuals receiving their degrees today, over here. To have all of you gathered here at Having all of you gathered here all at once is awe-inspiring. I have wondered for the past few years how commencement would look if we combined all the classes. Now I know, and I can't tell you how proud I am today. You're an impressive group. UCSD is an extraordinary university that has achieved great success in only a few decades, in large part because of the excellence of the faculty and the support of this community. But most of all, it is you, our students, who are our quality indicators. You bet. As many of you know, I spent many years working in private industry before I came to UCSD, and one of the reasons I made the move was I wanted the stimulation of an academic environment. I certainly haven't been disappointed with that. This environment is rich with culture, bursting with vitality, alive with ideas and innovations, and sometimes crackling with debate that inevitably occurs when these components collide. But that's our strength, and from that convergence of voices and viewpoints comes our greatness. It is you, our students, who challenge us and inspire us most. Ultimately, you are the reason we're here. I hope you'll allow us, that is the administration and the faculty, to take a little bit of pride in your accomplishments as you go into the world to meet and conquer your own personal challenges. I hope we've prepared you well to make a contribution in your own way, but please be good citizens and remember to give something back. I hope you leave here not only with the knowledge and skills we have taught you, but with a love of learning that will be with you throughout your lives. You'll never know all the answers, but please don't ever stop asking. That's the fun of it. The future is yours, and I know as you leave here and begin your next journey, the future is in good hands. I would like now to turn to some of our distinguished guests and add their welcome and congratulations. Regent Sue Johnson, speaking on behalf of the Regents of the University of California, President Richard Atkinson on behalf of the University of California, and Academic Senate Chairman Georgios Anagistopoulos on behalf of the faculty. Regent Johnson.
President Clinton, President Atkinson, Chancellor Dines, fellow regents, most honored graduates, and honored guests. I'm delighted this morning as the senior regent here present today to bring greetings to you, the class of 1997, from the Board of Regents of the University of California. To the graduates, we want you to know that it is your accomplishments that communicate to the rest of the world what an amazing place this is, this University of California, San Diego. Your futures will illustrate the contributions of this outstanding institution to all the world, and we look forward to watching it as your futures unfold. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you who are graduating today on the campus and at Regents meetings. You make us all proud. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you, Regent Johnson. I would like to add my welcome to you, Mr. President, to our honored guests, and offer my congratulations to the graduates here today. It's a great pleasure to return to UCSD and to once again participate in commencement ceremonies. I might add that I participated in 15 consecutive years of commencement ceremonies on this campus. As graduates of the University of California system, you leave this campus as representatives of the world's greatest educational institution. The University of California is renowned for its academic excellence and its superb research. Even more important, we are known for the quality of our graduates and their role on the world stage. They are policymakers and community leaders, chief executive officers and Nobel laureates, artists and philosophers, scientists and physicians, teachers and lawyers. Many in the audience here are University of California alumni, and today these graduates join your ranks. Graduates, you have a great deal to be proud of. You've worked hard, and today we celebrate the results of your efforts. But in many ways, your work is just beginning. We are privileged as the University of California to have the best and most able students. It's our job to prepare you to be leaders, to make a difference. The contributions you make in your communities, in your professional sphere, and to society at large will be a measure of the university's success as well as your success. I'm confident as I look across this field that the University of California will take great pride in your endeavors and successes. Perhaps there is even a future president among this group of graduates. I wish you and your families the best. Make good use of the knowledge and experience you've gained here at UCSD. My congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Greetings and welcome to all from the Academic Senate. President Clinton, it is my distinct privilege and honor to welcome you to our campus on behalf of the Academic Senate on this special occasion, recognizing the class of '97. When I was elected chair of the Academic Senate 2 years ago, the thought that one day I would be welcoming the President of the United States to our young campus never crossed my mind. Yet on reflection, it seems most appropriate that the occupant of the office of the chair of the Academic Senate should be welcoming the occupant of the office of the President of the United States. For these two offices are most similar in at least two respects: power and difficulty. While not many are likely to dispute the similarity in power, some may doubt the similarity in difficulty. I'm, of course, fully aware of how difficult it is to reach a consensus with 100 members of the Senate or 435 members of the House of Representatives. However, have you, Mr. President, ever tried to reach a consensus with 2 faculty members? or or even with one of them during different parts of the day. Speaking of consensus, Mr. President, I know that it has been one of the central goals of your administration. Where others have sought to divide us, you have sought to unite us. Where others have accentuated our differences, you have stressed our similarities, the common ground that makes us all members of one nation. This is a nation whose citizens come from every corner of the earth. They are of every color, race, and creed, speaking every language spoken on earth, and sharing every culture encountered around the globe. Yet, while in other parts of the world, even members of the same community, at times sharing the very same language, culture, and history, are often tearing each other apart, here we have learned to respect each other and build on the common humanity that unites us all. Mr. President, you have sought to build a consensus by aiming at what is just for all, insisting that all, especially the less fortunate ones, must be treated with fairness. For after all, it is the expectation of the citizens that policy decisions will be guided by justice and that all will be treated fairly that builds consensus and unity. As Plato remarked almost 2,500 years ago, injustice causes factions and hatreds and makes us fight with one another, while justice brings a sense of unity, common purpose, and friendship for each other. Mr. President, our young campus is touched and honored by your visit today. On behalf of the UCSD Academic Senate, I wish you every success in leading our nation and the whole world in these peaceful yet uncertain times. To the UCSD class of '97, the Senate extends its warmest congratulations for your many achievements so far and best wishes for every success in the future. Members of the UCSD class of '97, as you pursue your individual goals and seek personal fulfillment outside the shelter of UCSD, you must not lose sight of our common ground and unifying purpose, the things that make us all, despite our differences, citizens of this unique nation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased and proud to introduce the UCSD Gospel Choir under the direction of Mr. Kenneth Anderson.
See
Thank you. Thank you. It is now my great pleasure to introduce one of our graduating seniors, a very impressive young woman and a friend of mine who has served this past year as president of our Associated Students, Ms. Colleen Sabatini.
Good morning. Yeah. It's beautiful from up here. I wish you all could see it. While I was preparing my comments for this morning's commencement ceremony, I struggled with the words to express my profound pride in the graduates of this university on a day as remarkable as this. With the anticipation of 22,000 people seated in front of me, and the President of the United States of America sitting behind me, speaking on behalf of a dynamic graduating class, and studying for my very last set of finals, the words to convey the many emotions elicited by this day were certainly difficult to formulate. I stand before you with great pride in the 4,400 graduates being honored today. UCSD, truly one of the finest institutions of higher education in the world, is an academically rigorous university that demands and receives excellence from its students. Our presence here today is a testament of our personal dedication, determination, and commitment, as well as that of our families, friends, and those faculty and staff of UCSD who have supported us through our years here. As we leave this institution, no longer students, but alumni, we need to continue to appreciate the education we have received from the University of California. As a student of a public university, ourselves, our families, and anonymous taxpayers funded our educations. Many of those taxpayers may never see the day when their own child will attend a university of similar caliber as UC San Diego, or any college at all. We now represent a privileged group of people. For although the number is growing, few people in the world hold degrees from institutions of higher education. A working-class parent or the new immigrant still struggling for justice and respect, the parent of an inner-city youth whose hope for their child's future may not extend to the attainment of a college degree. For their daily concern is if their child will survive the day fed and safe. These are some of the people who have paid for our years here. I believe that we need to acknowledge the good fortune we have had in attending and now graduating from UCSD, and we need to seek to help those who may not be on a road of opportunity. We have, each of us, overcome personal hardships and struggles to get to where we are here today. Our lives have been a lesson in perseverance, struggle, and commitment to succeed. But at some point, someone put us on a path that allowed us to achieve this success. Now we have the responsibility to ensure that we help others walk down this road of opportunity with us. Regardless of where they come from, what language they speak, what gender they are, the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, or how much money they have in their pocket. This is our biggest challenge, to remember that we do not exist in isolation, and that we must, for the sake of current and future generations, actively participate in the world around us. UCSD has provided me, and I believe all of us, with a great education. Education is the tool of liberation. Liberation to view the whole world, understanding of its complexity, and appreciative of its diversity. Liberation to think for yourself, define yourself, and mobilize yourself towards greatness. Do not travel this world alone, for although it is true that we must be responsible for ourselves, we must also remember our responsibility to our families, communities, and each other as a people, which means we carry with us all whom we can down the road to liberation. It is our generation's turn. It is up to us. Our multi-ethnic, multi-class, multi-sexuality generations of Americans need to come and sit at the table together and enter into intelligent discourse grounded in understanding acceptance, and commitment to change. Only from inclusive open dialogue will the formulation of real answers to the problems of our society be attained. Maybe I am overly optimistic, but I have seen great things happen from our struggles here together. The children of San Diego that we as UCSD students have reached through programs such as Partners at Learning and Volunteer Connection may now have a greater chance of going to college. The Cross-Cultural Center and the Women's Center, places of dialogue that have raised the consciousness of our community, were built during our time here at UCSD because of the collective actions of the students. And although we have not yet succeeded in one of our most recent struggles, I remain hopeful that we as alumni may one day be able to volunteer our time at a UCSD charter high school. I am optimistic because I have faith in the American people. That we will rise to the challenges ahead of us in our personal and social lives is not a question to me. That we will not run from dialogue, even when it is difficult for us to understand, is of critical importance. That we as a people will commit ourselves to improving the social situation of all, even if it means sacrificing some of our own personal desires, is my hope for the future. For it is time for a revolution in this country, a revolution of our hearts and our minds. We cannot sit idly by while the promise of justice and equality for some of our brothers and sisters is broken, while 1 out of 4 of our children lives below the poverty level, while incarceration is given greater financial priority than prevention, education, and treatment. Things must change, and it is up to you and I to see this through. We need to embody the principles of integrity, justice, and compassion, and always remember that in every moment, we have the ability to affect positive change in another human being's life. It has been a great honor for me to learn with and from you, and to struggle alongside you. May we together leave this institution as open-minded, forward-thinking, compassionate human beings, unafraid of taking risks and rising to the challenges ahead. Together, you and I can raise the consciousness of the American people. Thank you and congratulations. Now, on behalf of the University of California, San Diego, graduating class of 1997, it is my great honor to introduce the President of the United States of America, William Jefferson Clinton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I would like to say is that Colleen spoke so well, and she said everything I meant to say, that I could do us all a great favor by simply associating myself with her remarks and sitting down. I would also like to thank Dr. Anagostopoulos for reminding us of the infamous capacity of faculty members to be contrary with one another. Until he said it, I hadn't realized that probably 90% of the Congress once were on university faculties. Let me say to Chancellor Dines and President Atkinson, to the distinguished regents and faculty members, to the students and their families and friends who are here today, I'm honored to be joined by a number of people who reflect the kind of America that Colleen Sabatini called for. Senator Barbara Boxer and Senator Dan Akaka from Hawaii, your Congressman Bob Filner, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congresswoman Patsy Mink, Congressman Jim Clyburn, Congressman John Lewis, a great hero of the Civil Rights Movement, Congresswoman Juanita Millender McDonald, Congressman Carlos Romero Barcelo from Puerto Rico, your Lieutenant Governor, Gray Davis, the Secretary of Transportation, Rodney Slater, of Labor, Alexis Herman, of Veterans Affairs, Jesse Brown, of Education, Dick Riley, our distinguished Ambassador to the United Nations, Bill Richardson, our distinguished Administrator of the Small Business Administration, Aida Alvarez, the first American of Puerto Rican descent ever to be in a presidential cabinet. I would like to ask them all to stand, along with the members of the White House staff who are here, including Thurgood Marshall Jr., whose father has a college named for him at this great university. Would you please stand? And I can't help but noting that there's another person here that deserves some special recognition. University of California at San Diego, class of 1977, a Filipino-American woman who became the youngest captain of the Navy, and my personal physician, Dr. Connie Mariano. Where is she? Somewhere. I want to thank you for offering our nation a shining example of excellence, rooted in the many backgrounds that make up this great land. You have blazed new paths in science and technology, explored the new horizons of the Pacific Rim and Latin America. This is a great university for the 21st century. Today we celebrate your achievements at a truly golden moment for America. The Cold War is over and freedom is now ascendant around the globe, with more than half of the people in this old world living under governments of their own choosing for the very first time. Our economy is the healthiest in a generation and the strongest in the world. Our culture, our science, our technology promised unimagined advances and exciting new careers. Our social problems, from crime to poverty, are finally bending to our efforts. Of course, there are still challenges for you out there. Beyond our borders, we must battle terrorism, organized crime, and drug trafficking, the spread of weapons of mass destruction, the prospect of new diseases, and environmental disaster. Here at home, we must ensure that every child has the chance you have had to develop your God-given capacities. We cannot wait for them to get in trouble to notice them. We must continue to fight the scourge of gangs and crime and drugs. We must prepare for the retirement of the baby boom generation so that we can reduce that child poverty rate that Colleen talked about. We must harness the forces of science and technology for the public good, the entire American public. But I believe the greatest challenge we face, among all those that Colleen talked about, is also our greatest opportunity. Of all the questions of discrimination and prejudice that still exist in our society, the most perplexing one is the oldest, and in some ways today, the newest, the problem of race. Can we fulfill the promise of America by embracing all our citizens of all races, not just at a university where people have the benefit of enlightened teachers and the time to think and grow and get to know each other, but in the daily life of every American community? In short, can we become one America in the 21st century? I know, and I've said before, that money cannot buy this goal, power cannot compel it, technology cannot create it. This is something that can come only from the human spirit, the spirit we saw when the choir of many races sang as a gospel choir. Today, the state of Hawaii, which has a senator and a congresswoman present here, has no majority racial or ethnic group. It is a wonderful place of exuberance and friendship and patriotism. Within the next 3 years here in California, no single race or ethnic group will make up a majority of the state's population. Already, 5 of our largest school districts draw students from over 100 different racial and ethnic groups. At this campus, 12 Nobel Prize winners have taught or studied from 9 different countries. Half-century from now, when your own grandchildren are in college, there will be no majority race in America. Now, we know what we will look like, but what will we be like? Can we be one America, respecting, even celebrating our differences, but embracing even more what we have in common? Can we define what it means to be an American, not just in terms of the hyphens showing our ethnic origins, but in terms of our primary allegiance to the values America stands for and values we really live by? Our hearts long to answer yes, but our history reminds us that it will be hard. The ideals that bind us together are as old as our nation, but so are the forces that pull us apart. Our founders sought to form a more perfect union. The humility and hope of that phrase is the story of America, and it is our mission today. Consider this. We were born with a Declaration of Independence which asserted that we are all created equal, and a Constitution that enshrined slavery. We fought a bloody civil war to abolish slavery and preserve the Union, but we remained a house divided and unequal by law for another century. We advanced across the continent in the name of freedom, yet in so doing we pushed Native Americans off their land, often crushing their cultures and their livelihood. Our Statue of Liberty welcomes poor, tired, huddled masses of immigrants to our borders, but each new wave has felt the sting of discrimination. In World War II, Japanese Americans fought valiantly for freedom in Europe, taking great casualties, while at home their families were herded into internment camps. The famed Tuskegee Airmen lost none of the bombers they guarded during the war, but their African American heritage cost them a lot of rights when they came back home in peace. Though minorities have more opportunities than ever today, we still see evidence of bigotry, from the desecration of houses of worship, whether they be churches, synagogues, or mosques, to demeaning talk in corporate suites. There is still much work to be done by you, members of the class of 1997. But those who say we cannot transform the problem of prejudice into the promise of unity forget how far we have come, and I cannot believe they have ever seen a crowd like you. When I look at you, it is almost impossible for me even to remember my own life. I grew up in the high drama of the Cold War in the patriotic South. Black and white Southerners alike wore our nation's uniform in defense of freedom against communism, and they fought and died together from Korea to Vietnam. But back home, I went to segregated schools, swam in segregated public pools, sat in all-white sections at the movies, and traveled through small towns in my state that still mark restrooms and water fountains, white and colored. By the grace of God, I had a grandfather with just a grade school education, but the heart of a true American, who taught me that it was wrong. And by the grace of God, there were brave African Americans like Congressman John Lewis, who risked their lives time and time again to make it right. And there were white Americans like Congressman Bob Filner, a freedom rider on the bus with John Lewis in the long, noble struggle for civil rights, who knew that it was a struggle to free white people too. To be sure, there is old, unfinished business between black and white Americans, but the classic American dilemma has now become many dilemmas of race and ethnicity. We see it in the tension between black and Hispanic customers and their Korean or Arab grocers, and a resurgent anti-Semitism even on some college campuses, and a hostility toward new immigrants from Asia to the Middle East, to the former communist countries, to Latin America and the Caribbean, even those whose hard work and strong families have brought them success in the American way. We see a disturbing tendency to wrongly attribute to entire groups, including the white majority, the objectionable conduct of a few members. If a black American commits a crime, condemn the act. But remember that most African Americans are hardworking, law-abiding citizens. If a Latino gang member deals drugs, condemn the act. But remember the vast majority of Hispanics are responsible citizens who also deplore the scourge of drugs in our life. If white teenagers beat a young African American boy almost to death just because of his race, for God's sake, condemn the act. But remember, the overwhelming majority of white people will find it just as hateful. If an Asian merchant discriminates against her customers of another minority group, call her on it, but remember too that many, many Asians have borne the burden of prejudice and do not want anyone else to feel it. Remember too, in spite of the persistence of prejudice, we are more integrated than ever. More of us share neighborhoods and work and school and social activities, religious life, even love and marriage across racial lines than ever before. More of us enjoy each other's company and distinctive cultures than ever before. And more than ever, we understand the benefits of our racial, linguistic, and cultural diversity in a global society, where networks of commerce and communications draw us closer and bring rich rewards to those who truly understand life beyond their nation's borders. With just a 20th of the world's population, but a 5th of the world's income, we in America simply have to sell to the other 95% of the world's consumers just to maintain our standard of living. Because we are drawn from every culture on earth, we are uniquely positioned to do it. Beyond commerce, the diverse backgrounds and talents of our citizens can help America to light the globe, showing nations deeply divided by race, religion, and tribe that there is a better way. Finally, as you have shown us today, our diversity will enrich our lives in non-material ways, deepening our understanding of human nature and human differences, making our communities more exciting, more enjoyable, more meaningful. That is why I have come here today to ask the American people to join me in a great national effort to perfect the promise of America for this new time as we seek to build our more perfect union. Now, when there is more cause for hope than fear, when we are not driven to it by some emergency or social cataclysm, now is the time we should learn together, talk together, and act together to build one America. Let me say that I know that for many white Americans, this conversation may seem to exclude them or threaten them. That must not be so. I believe white Americans have just as much to gain as anybody else from being a part of this endeavor, much to gain from an America where we finally take responsibility for all our children so that they at last can be judged as Martin Luther King hoped, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. What is it that we must do? For 4.5 years now, I have worked to prepare America for the 21st century with a strategy of opportunity for all, responsibility from all, and an American community of all our citizens. To succeed in each of these areas, we must deal with the realities and the perceptions affecting all racial groups in America. First, we must continue to expand opportunity. Full participation in our strong and growing economy is the best antidote to envy, despair, and racism. We must press forward to move millions more from poverty and welfare to work, to bring the spark of enterprise to inner cities, to redouble our efforts to reach those rural communities prosperity has passed by. And most important of all, we simply must give our young people the finest education in the world. There are no children who, because of their ethnic or racial background, who cannot meet the highest academic standards. If we set them and measure our students against them, if we give them well-trained teachers and well-equipped classrooms, and if we continue to support reasoned reforms to achieve excellence like the charter school movement. At a time when college education means stability, a good job, a passport to the middle class, we must open the doors of college to all Americans, and we must make at least 2 years of college as universal at the dawn of the next century as a high school diploma is today. In our efforts to extend economic and educational opportunity to all our citizens, we must consider the role of affirmative action. I know affirmative action has not been perfect in America. That's why 2 years ago we began an effort to fix the things that are wrong with it. But when used in the right way, it has worked. It has given us a whole generation of professionals in fields that used to be exclusive clubs, where people like me got the benefit of 100% affirmative action. There are now more women-owned businesses than ever before. There are more African American, Latino, and Asian American lawyers and judges, scientists and engineers, accountants and executives than ever before. But the best example of successful affirmative action is our military. Our armed forces are diverse from top to bottom. That excellence and diversity do not go hand in hand. There are those who argue that scores on standardized tests should be the sole measure of qualification for admissions to colleges and universities. But many would not apply the same standard to the children of alumni or those with athletic ability. I believe a student body that reflects the excellence and the diversity of the people we will live and work with has independent educational value. Look around this crowd today. Don't you think you have learned a lot more than you would have if everybody sitting around you looked just like you? I think you have. And beyond the educational value to you, it has a public interest, because you will learn to live and work in the world you will live in better. When young people sit side by side with people of many different backgrounds, they do learn something that they can take out into the world, and they will be more effective citizens. Many affirmative action students excel. They work hard, they achieve. They go out and serve the communities that need them for their expertise and role models. If we close the door on them, we will weaken our greatest universities, and it will be more difficult to build the society we need in the 21st century. Let me say, I know that the people of California voted to repeal affirmative action without any ill motive. The vast majority of them simply did it with the conviction that discrimination and isolation are no longer barriers to achievement. But consider the results. Minority enrollments in law school and other graduate programs are plummeting for the first time in decades. Soon the same will likely happen in undergraduate education. We must not resegregate higher education or leave it to the private universities to do the public's work. At the very time when we need to do a better job of living and learning together, we should not stop trying to equalize economic opportunity. To those who oppose affirmative action, I ask you to come up with an alternative. I would embrace it if I could find a better way. And to those of us who still support it, I say we should continue to stand for it. We should reach out to those who disagree or are uncertain and talk about the practical impact of these issues. And we should never be unwilling to work with those who disagree with us to find new ways to lift people up and bring people together. Beyond opportunity, we must demand responsibility from every American. Our strength as a society depends upon both, upon people taking responsibility for themselves and their families, teaching their children good values, working hard and obeying the law, and giving back to those around us. The new economy offers fewer guarantees, more risks, and more rewards. It calls upon all of us to take even greater responsibility for our own education than ever before. In the current economic boom, only one racial or ethnic group in America has actually experienced a decline in income: Hispanic Americans. One big reason is that Hispanic high school dropout rates are well above, indeed far above, those of whites and blacks. Some of the dropouts actually reflect a strong commitment to work. We admire the legendary willingness to take the hard job at long hours for low pay. In the old economy, that was a responsible thing to do. But in the new economy, where education is the key, responsibility means staying in school. No responsibility is more fundamental than obeying the law. It is not racist to insist that every American do so. The fight against crime and drugs is a fight for the freedom of all our people, including those, perhaps especially those minorities, living in our poorest neighborhoods. But respect for the law must run both ways. The shocking differences in perceptions of the fairness of our criminal justice system grows out of the real experiences that too many minorities have had with law enforcement officers. Part of the answer is to have all our citizens respect the law, but the basic rule must be that the law must respect all our citizens. And that applies, too, to the enforcement of our civil rights laws. For example, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has a huge backlog of cases with discrimination claims, though we have reduced it by 25% over the last 4 years. We can do not much better without more resources. It is imperative that Congress, especially those members who say they're for civil rights but against affirmative action, at least give us the money necessary to enforce the law of the land, and do it soon. Our third imperative is perhaps the most difficult of all. We must build one American community based on respect for one another and our shared values. We must begin with a candid conversation on the state of race relations today and the implications of Americans of so many different races living and working together as we approach a new century. We must be honest with each other. We have talked at each other and about each other for a long time. It's high time we all began talking with each other. Over the coming year, I want to lead the American people in a great and unprecedented conversation about race. In community efforts from Lima, Ohio to Billings, Montana, in remarkable experiments in cross-racial communications like the uniquely named E-racism, I have seen what Americans can do if they let down their guards and reach out their hands. I have asked one of America's greatest scholars, Dr. John Hope Franklin, to chair an advisory panel of 7 distinguished Americans to help me in this endeavor. He will be joined by former governors Thomas Kean of New Jersey and William Winter of Mississippi, both great champions of civil rights, by Linda Chavez Thompson, the Executive Vice President of the AFL-CIO, by Reverend Susan Johnson Cook, a minister from the Bronx and former White House Fellow, by Angela Oh, an attorney and Los Angeles community leader, and Robert Thompson, the CEO of Nissan USA, distinguished leaders in their community. I want this panel to help educate Americans about the facts surrounding issues of race, to promote a dialogue in every community in the land to confront and work through these issues, to recruit and encourage leadership at all levels to help breach racial divides, and define, develop, and recommend how to implement concrete solutions to our problems, solutions that will involve all of us in government, business, communities, and as individual citizens. I will make periodic reports to the American people about our findings and what actions we all have to take to move America forward. This board will seek out and listen to Americans from all races and all walks of life. They are performing a great citizen service. But in the cause of building one America, all citizens must serve. As I said at the President's Summit on Service in Philadelphia, in our new era, such acts of service are basic acts of citizenship. Government must play its role, but much of the work must be done by the American people as citizen servants. The very effort will strengthen us and bring us closer together. In short, I want America to capture the feel and the spirit that you have given to all of us today. I'd like to ask the board to stand and be recognized. I want you to look at them, and I want you to feel free to talk to them over the next year or so. Dr. Franklin and members of the board. Honest dialogue will not be easy at first. We'll all have to get back past defensiveness and fear and political correctness and other barriers to honesty. Emotions may be rubbed raw, but we must begin. What do I really hope we will achieve as a country? If we do nothing more than talk, it will be interesting, but it won't be enough. If we do nothing more than propose disconnected acts of policy, it will be helpful, but it won't be enough. But if 10 years from now, people can look back and see that this year of honest dialogue and concerted action helped to lift the heavy burden of race from our children's future, we will have given a precious gift to America. I ask you all to remember just for a moment, as we have come through the difficult trial on the Oklahoma City bombing, remember that terrible day when we saw and wept for Americans and forgot for a moment that there were a lot of them from different races than we are. Remember the many faces and races of the Americans who did not sleep and put their lives at risk to engage in the rescue, the helping, and the healing. Remember how you have seen things like that during the natural disasters here in California. That is the face of the real America. That is the face I have seen over and over again. That is the America, somehow, some way, we have to make real in daily American life. Members of the graduating class, you will have a greater opportunity to live your dreams than any generation in our history, if we can make of our many different strands one America, a nation at peace with itself, bound together by shared values and aspirations and opportunities, and real respect for our differences. I am a Scotch-Irish Southern Baptist, and I'm proud of it. But my life has been immeasurably enriched by the power of the Torah, the beauty of the Quran, the piercing wisdom of the religions of East and South Asia, all embraced by my fellow Americans. I have felt indescribable joy and peace in Black and Pentecostal churches. I have come to love the intensity and selflessness of my Hispanic fellow Americans toward La Familia. As a Southerner, I grew up on country music and county fairs, and I still like them. But I have also reveled in the festivals and the food, the music and the art and the culture of Native Americans and Americans from every region in the world. In each land I have visited as your president, I have felt more at home because some of their people have found a home in America. For 2 centuries, wave upon wave of immigrants have come to our shores to build a new life drawn by the promise of freedom and a fair chance. Whatever else they found, even bigotry and violence, most of them never gave up on America. Even African Americans, the first of whom were brought here in chains, never gave up on America. It is up to you to prove that their abiding faith was well placed. Living in islands of isolation, some splendid and some sordid, is not the American way. Basing our self-esteem on the ability to look down on others is not the American way. Being satisfied if we have what we want and heedless of others who don't even have what they need and deserve is not the American way. We have torn down the barriers in our laws. Now we must break down the barriers in our lives, our minds, and our hearts. More than 30 years ago, at the high tide of the Civil Rights Movement, the Kerner Commission said we were becoming 2 Americas, one white, one black, separate and unequal. Today we face a different choice. Will we become not 2, but many Americas, separate, unequal, and isolated? Or will we draw strength from all our people and our ancient faith in equality and human dignity to become the world's first truly multiracial democracy? That is the unfinished work of our times, to lift the burden of race and redeem the promise of America. Class of 1997, I grew up in the shadows of a divided America, but I have seen glimpses of one America. You have shown me one today. That is the America you must make. It begins with your dreams, so dream large. Live your dreams. Challenge your parents, and teach your children well. God bless you, and good luck.
gentlemen, if you will look on the back of your programs, you will find some printed words there. We would like to invite you to join with the choir and to please stand and remain standing as we sing America the Beautiful.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those very inspiring words. And thanks to the gospel choir again. Now, we proceed with the conferring of degrees. They will be conferred by President Richard Atkinson, and I invite the undergraduate college provosts, Tom Bond, I know where Repeal College is now, Patrick Ledden, is that John Muir College over there? Cecil Lytle. Thurgood Marshall College. David Jordan. And Ann Craig. IRPS Dean Richard Feinberg. And this will be the quietest group, the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research, Richard Atiyah. President Atkinson.
Will the candidates for the degrees Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from Repeal College please rise and remain standing? President Atkinson, It is my pleasure to present the 1997 candidates for the degrees Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from Repeal College.
Will the candidates for the degrees Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from John Muir College please rise? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degrees Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from John Muir College.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Bachelors of Arts and Bachelors of Sciences from Thurgood Marshall College please rise or indicate their attendance? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degrees of Bachelors of Arts and Bachelors of Sciences from Thurgood Marshall College.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from Earl Warren College please rise? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degrees Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from Earl Warren College.
Will the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Sciences from Eleanor Roosevelt College please rise? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Sciences from Eleanor Roosevelt College.
Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Pacific International Affairs in the Graduate School of International Relations and Pacific Studies please rise? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degree of Master of Pacific International Affairs in the Graduate School of International Relations and Pacific Studies.
Will the candidates for the degrees Master of Fine Arts, Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy from the Graduate Division please rise? President Atkinson, I present the 1997 candidates for the degrees Master of Fine Arts, Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy from the Graduate Division.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Regents of the University of California, I confer upon you the degrees for which you are entitled. Congratulations. Please be seated.
The 1997 commencement ceremony of the University of California is now at a close. Please remain in your seats.
Goodbye.